He died at 19. His name echoes through the millennia as a symbol of power and mystery. But what if Tutankhamun never ruled Egypt? What if the boy king was merely a golden mask, concealing the true lords of the throne? In 1332 BC, when the young prince ascended to power, Egypt was bleeding. His father Akhenaten had destroyed the ancient order, abolishing the old gods in favor of Aten, the solar disk. Temples were closed, priests persecuted, and the empire plunged into chaos. When Akhenaten finally died, he left behind a shattered kingdom and an heir of only 9 years old. The boy did not choose his name. Born Tutankhamun, living image of Aten, he bore the mark of his father as heresy. But something changed in the early years of his reign. Someone decided that the past needed to be erased, rewritten, and that someone was no child. Gradually, decrees began to appear in his name. The capital was moved back to Thebes. The temples of Amun were reopened, rebuilt with gold and precious stones. The cult of Aten was quietly buried, as if it had never existed, and the young pharaoh received a new name. Tutankhamun, living image of Amun. A child does not orchestrate a religious restoration of this magnitude. Behind the throne, two shadows moved. Ay, the old advisor, a man of soft words and calculating eyes, who had served the father and now controlled the son. And Horemheb, the Iron general, commander of the armies, whose loyalty was to the stability of Egypt, not to a sickly boy. Together, they ruled. While Tutankhamun watched, the inscriptions in the temples reveal the truth. The restoration decrees speak in the name of the pharaoh, but the language is that of experienced scribes, men who knew the ancient rituals. Tutankhamun could barely read complete hieroglyphs at that age. Someone held his hand when the royal seals were pressed into the clay. Someone whispered the words he should repeat. I held the title of Divine Father, an ambiguous position that gave him unrestricted access to the young king. Some historians suggest he was Tutankhamun's uncle, or even his grandfather, through Nefertiti's lineage. But family titles in ancient Egypt were political tools. What mattered was power, and I possessed it. He was present at every decision, every decree, every public appearance. Horemheb, for his part, kept the borders secure. While Egypt recovered internally, he crushed rebellions in Nubia and Syria. His name appeared on military monuments with a frequency that was disturbing for someone who was not a pharaoh. It was as if the general was building his own legitimacy, preparing the ground for something inevitable. The young king barely appeared in administrative records. There are no diplomatic letters written by him, no records of royal audiences where he made decisions, only ceremonial images. Tutankhamun hunting, Tutankhamun offering to the gods, Tutankhamun sitting while others acted, a golden puppet on an empty throne. His wife Ankhesenemen was the daughter of Akhenaten, Nefertiti. She was also his half-sister. The marriage was not a choice, but a political necessity, a way to legitimize the reign through the royal lineage. Two teenagers trapped in a deadly game where their feelings didn't matter. They had two daughters, both stillborn, buried in tiny coffins next to their father. Modern analyses of the mummified body reveal fractures, bone diseases, and malaria. Tutankhamun was frail, dependent, possibly unable to walk without canes. In his later years, a pharaoh who could not lead armies, could not inspire crowds, could not impose his will, perfect for those who wished to rule without the title. And then, at 19, he died. Abruptly. Mysteriously. Torius veri. Akariache. Accident, an infection that spread, complications from congenital diseases. Or perhaps something more deliberate, more silent. Poison leaves no obvious marks on millennia-old bones, and powerful men don't need to get their own hands dirty. The succession was swift and brutal. Ankhesenemen disappeared from the records soon after her husband's death. There was a desperate letter sent to the Hittite king, asking for a prince to marry and protect her. The prince was sent. He was assassinated on the Egyptian border before reaching Thebes. Coincidence, or someone ensuring that no foreigner would claim the throne? I, the old advisor, became pharaoh. He was over 60 years old, but he seized power without resistance. He reigned for only 4 years before dying. And then, like a shadow, finally emerging from the darkness, Horemheb took the throne. The general systematically erased the names of Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, and Ay from the official records, as if they had never existed. Horemheb ruled for nearly 30 years, completely restoring order, restructuring the army, and eliminating corruption. He was a brilliant administrator. A born leader. Exactly the kind of man who would need a puppet on the throne unless he was patient enough to wait for the right moment. Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered almost intact in 1922, filled with treasures, but his burial was small, hastily constructed, inadequate for a pharaoh, as if they were in a hurry to bury him and move on. The sarcophagus showed signs of adaptation, possibly reused. In death, he was treated as secondary, disposable, temporary. For 3,000 years, his name was forgotten. He wasn't on the lists of kings. He wasn't celebrated in temples, just a boy who occupied a throne for 9 years while others decided the fate of an empire. And now, as the world admires his gold and his death mask, a question remains echoing through the corridors of history. Did Tutankhamun ever know he was just a ghost, wearing the crown of a god?